someone asked me the other day, they thought they were getting a tax refund, but now that they've done their taxes, they owe money. What ramifications does an employer have for not withholding enough federal and or state taxes from an employee's paycheck? What can an employee do if the employer does not comply with the number of dependents an employee wants for federal withholding tax?
We have a couple issues in what you brought up there, King. So let's dissect it accordingly. First, withholdings are established by the employee, and that's done by filling out a Form W-4, which you submit to your employer. And on the W-4, you fill out how many allowances that you want or how many dependents. So the more allowances and dependents that you put on your W-4 form, the less will be withheld. The less allowances and dependents, the more will be withheld. So it's really the employee's responsibility to figure out what the correct withholding will be. Now, the way someone figures that out is they should go back, look at their prior year tax return, see what their tax liability was, and then adjust accordingly on their W-4 form. Obviously, they can call their tax preparer, their accountant, and so forth, and get some guidance as to what should be the right number. And the right number really is zero. At the end, zero in terms of when you file your tax return. If you did it exactly right for federal and state, you owe nothing and you don't get a refund. Some people use that to force themselves to save, and they will overpay the government through the year and then get that refund check. I know people do it, but it's a little silly because essentially you're giving the government an interest-free loan because they're holding your money, more money than they were entitled to. Now, to the point that you're making, what happens when you file your return? You're under the impression that you're going to get a refund and you end up owing. First point there is depending on to what extent you are under withheld, you could have a situation where you have an underpayment penalty and some interest. So it's not just a matter of that you're short on the tax. You have insult to injury by actually having some penalty and interest due on that money. Now, if that's a situation, you got to go back and look at your W-4 and then look at your payroll records that the employer has and see whether the employer made a mistake or whether you actually miscalculated. So you shouldn't automatically make the assumption that you were under withheld and the employer made the mistake or did it on purpose. There's no incentive for the employer to mess up your withholding. However, if the employer did make a mistake on your withholding, the tax is yours. I don't see any way around that. So you're under withheld, you owe that tax, it hurts, but you have to pay it. To the extent you end up in a situation with penalties or interest, I think you have a position to go to your employer if they made the mistake and say, hey, you caused this. I know I have to pay the tax, but the interest and penalties are on your part. You should reimburse me for that. I don't know if they would be obligated to. After all, it's your employer. It could be a sticky situation, but that's what I think the answer would be in that situation.